All right, so welcome to the PHFA Certificate in Elder Service Coordination Program. The topic for today is combating compassion fatigue, and these webinars, in conjunction with specified sessions at the PHFA Housing Services Conference, will enable you to be eligible to receive the Certificate in Elder Service Coordination, which will be issued in partnership with PHFA and the California University of Pennsylvania Rural Communities Institute. And today our presenter is Dr. Christopher Halsey. Dr. Halsey has worked in the healthcare industry for nearly 20 years, starting off as a registered medical assistant at a local community clinic in 1995, then moving on to working as a clinical coordinator and a medical practice manager at Penn Surgery at Chestnut Hill Hospital in Philadelphia, PA. He currently works as a clinical chaplain for a local hospice provider, also in Philadelphia. Dr. Halsey holds degrees in theology and psychology from Trinity Graduate School of Theology in Huntsville, Alabama. In 2011, Dr. Halsey was awarded an honorary Doctor of Divinity degree from St. Thomas Christian University in Jacksonville, Florida, for his work within the religious community. He is a sought-after conference speaker specializing in topics relating to end-of-life care, compassion fatigue, medical ethics, and spiritual care in healthcare. Dr. Halsey has also appeared as a guest on numerous radio broadcasts and has written articles for a national hospice care magazine. Dr. Halsey has a passion to see lives change and to lend a helping hand to those in need. He lives with this life's principle. If you love what you do, you will never work a day in your life. Good morning, Dr. Halsey, and thank you for being our presenter this morning.
Good morning, Alicia. I am definitely grateful and honored to be here today to present and to speak to this wonderful group here today. Well, good morning again, everybody. Today we'll be talking about compassion fatigue. Our main objective today will be talking about we're going to define a few things today, mainly define stress. We're going to define what compassion fatigue is. We're going to also talk about some contributing factors that lead to compassion fatigue. We're also going to identify the signs and symptoms, and also going to offer you some tools for assessing what compassion fatigue is, as well as how to get through it. Explain ways how to recover from it, as well as prevention on how to do self-care for ourselves when we're working in the helping fields, in this helping field. The first thing we want to recognize or realize is compassion fatigue originates from stress. And we're going to go into stress and talk about stress in full detail in a moment. But again, originating from stress, it is our inability to say no. It is a need to prove ourselves to others. It is lack of support from people in our lives. It is lack of clearly defined roles or responsibilities. It is lack of organizational skills, too many deadlines, involvement in dysfunctional relationships, and just a lack of sleep, lack of nutrition, and lack of enjoyable activities such as hobbies that things that you enjoy that rejuvenate you or revive you. So let's look at stress. So what is stress? Stress is a normal physical response to events that make you feel threatened or upset or balanced in some way. When you sense danger, whether it's real or imagined, the body's defense kick into high gear in a rapid automatic process known as the fight or flight or freeze reaction, or what we call the stress response. The stress response is the body's way of protecting you. In other words, it's your body's defense mechanism when all these things are going on, all this anxiety and all these things are that you're dealing with. It's your body's protecting you when you're going through those things. That's what stress is. So when working properly, it helps you stay focused, energetic, and alert. And in emergency situations, stress can save your life, giving you extra strength to defend yourself, for example, or spurring you to slam on the brakes to avoid an accident if you're driving. So again, let's look at stress in detail. What you know about what stress is. So stressors are external. Give me 1 second here. Stresses are external events or conditions that affect the body. Stress is the result of any demand upon the body. And stress is also known as anxiety, conflict, pressure, strain, worry, or even tension. Now, the reality is that stress is neither good or bad. Like getting married, having children, receiving a job promotion, or moving to a new home, or winning the lottery, for example, are all good things. However, each one brings with it a degree of added stress. For example, if you won the lottery, you have all these found friends that come out of the woodworks, or all these long-lost relatives who come out and wanting money when someone wins the lottery. So it brings on an added stress. What makes the difference in either a good situation or a bad situation is how we look at it in our response to it. The key is understanding stress and its components and working with that particular information. So finally, there is no such thing as a stressless life. Of course, life is full of stress, just life in general is full of stress. But so there's no such thing as a life less stress. So stress is part of being human. And so we're all humans. I always like to say when I present, we're human beings. We're humans continuing to be. So we're always growing. We're always evolving. We're changing on a daily basis. Our bodies change. Our thought processes change. Things change with us as we grow as human beings. And it is often what makes our life the most interesting and the most challenging, of course, as we grow. So let's look at this model of stress. So in this particular diagram, it is a model of stressors that come at you every single day. Notice the resulting issue at the bottom of the diagram that lay out the effects of stress of your health. And of course, as professionals, you and I must be aware of when it comes to when we find ourselves in this particular predicament. So we look at the external demands and the pressures. You see on the bottom you have vulnerability factors, predispositions, coping skills, lifestyle changes. So all these things we're standing upon, and then all around all those things we have accidents, and we have sick days, and we have office conflicts, and we have healthcare crises, and all these things are increased. We have impaired decision making. We have compensation issues. We have people that we're serving who have their issues, and we're trying to help them through their problems. So that's all the stuff that we're standing on. And then here's our perception of looking at all these things going around in a circle. So these external demands and pressures, again, other stressors, family issues, individual issues, social issues, environmental issues. So not even talking about the weather. Say if it's bad weather outside and you have to drive to your employment, and that's stress in itself. If it's ice outside, should I attempt to drive there? Should I not? Should I stay home? Or if you're not feeling well in your body, you're sick, should I go to work? Should I not go to work? I don't want to affect everybody else. All these things are, of course, stressors. So, and also work and school demands. Then here your internal demands of pressure, responsibilities, your obligations, of course, with your job duties, your own self-criticisms or even the criticisms of others. You also have psychological strain, and all these things, all these symptoms can turn into illnesses. And then you have all your past experiences, all these things that may have happened to you in the past is also that you're also trying to hold on to and balance out as you go through your life. And then you have your own attitudes and your own belief systems and your own moral values that you're fighting with or dealing with as well. So all these things are stress. And so stress, of course, is, again, it's our body's response to try to protect us when we're going through different situations. So stress by generations. So I'm going to put the whole entire slide up here. So we have across the younger adults experience the highest level of stress. Millennials, who are between the ages of 18 and 33 years old, report that 5.4 out of 10 of them experience stress. The Generation Xers, which are those who are aged 34 to 47 years old, 5.4 also say same level as the millennials. Say they experience stress. Baby boomers, which are age 48 to 66 years old, explain that they experience stress. And then you have the mature adults who are 66 plus years and older, also report that they experience stress. And it's also interesting to note that there again is a generational divide between the issues concerning the millennials and the Generation Xers versus the baby boomers, or even the mature generation. Young Americans are more stressed by issues involving work, money, their job responsibilities, whereas health issues create the stress in older Americans. So you have, again, the older Americans, the mature Americans, their stress is pretty much in their health, whereas the Generation Xers or baby boomers are the ones who are really dealing with the stress of their daily jobs and other responsibilities. And then you also have stress by gender. The APH study reveals that a gender divide related to stress. For example, women report higher levels of stress than men, a 5.3 level versus a 4.6 in men on a 10-point scale. More women, 23%, experience extreme stress on a scale of 1 to 10. They report an 8 or 9, or even a 10, versus a man who says their increased strength changed about 33%, or report extreme stress. So women report more extreme stress than men do. So then here's the next slide. Is stress out the new normal? Have we really adjusted to it? Is this something that we ought to really be focused on? And so again, what does all this information tell us? And that's issues with the economy, with our jobs, with unemployment, with healthcare issues, and all these things dominate our lives. It begs the question again: is stressed out becoming the new normal for us and for our generations to come? Again, you look at the stress levels and the increased levels. Looks like I have that the millennials are who are really the ones who are considered the most stressed, again, between the ages of 18 and 33. And coming in second is the baby boomers, the age 48 to 65 or 66, report increased stress at 36%. And then after that, you have the Generation Xers, the age 34 to 47, and so forth and so on. So then you have the millennials, the matures, again, who are at the lowest level, and then their stress is based on their health issue that they may be dealing with.
So I have a question.
Yes.
If stressed out becomes the new norm, does that mean that eventually the term stressed out is going to go away? Exactly,
because it's going to be normal. It's going to be considered something that normal part of our daily life. It's just something that's socially accepted. For example, and I'm just going to use an example of marriage. For example, years ago, the old mature adults, marriage was being divorced wasn't acceptable. Then as things change and lives change, marriage, being divorced, has become more socially acceptable. So it's actually normal now. It used to be frowned upon if you were, an older person, you were married for a long time, got divorced, it was frowned upon, but now it's more socially acceptable. So same thing, same analogy relates to stress. And as our lives begin to change and we begin to grow and all the demands be placed on us, we'll learn how to adapt to those changes. And again, that word stressed out, a new word may come to play soon. So we've learned how to adjust to life's issues. And it's like this, for example, for me, when I'm sharing with people as it relates to stress, I say, look, life happens to us. There are things that are out of our control, stuff that we cannot control, and it's almost just understanding that sometimes hands are dealt to us that we don't really want. And how do we get through those things? And we're going to talk about that as well. We relax. We think clearly. We try to make a good, sound judgment decisions if need be, whatever the situation is as relates to stressful situation. And the reality is that we can get through anything, if we really learn how to work through stress. So yeah, eventually stress will become the new normal. And that, again, that's the leading question that's out there today with those psychologists and those who do counseling. That's a great question.
In other words,
Thanks.
Be able to use it as an excuse, because there'll be people just look at you and say that's normal.
Right, exactly. Or they'll begin to tell you their story, how worse their story is. For example, again, somebody may tell the story, maybe a horrific story. Then you have someone else tell their story and say, "Oh, your story is not as severe as mine." So again, you're right. They will look at them like there's something wrong with them. Like, why are you complaining about something that I can handle or I have gotten through myself? That's what people will possibly look at. So I actually like to look at that word crisis. Of course, when a crisis happens to us, many people, again, have a lot of stress concerning crises that take place in their life. For example, the word crisis in Japanese means two things. Japanese crisis means two things. It means danger and also means opportunity. You'll notice in a lot of the Asian cultures, there are a lot of stresses because it's like, okay, I can either look at this as a situation that I'm not going to get through, that I'm always going to be faced with, and it's going to destroy me. It's going to really turn my life upside down. And that's looking at it in the danger piece of it. But if I look at it as an opportunity, I look at it as to say, okay, this is going to build me up. This isn't that bad. I'm going to get through this. Trouble is not going to last always for me. I'm going to be okay. Let me relax. Let me take a deep breath. Let me inhale, exhale. Let me get through this. And so again, when we look at that word, and that's what I typically use when I'm dealing with a major issue, what I consider a crisis, I look at that particular word. I'm using it as an opportunity not to worry, but to think rational and to move through it. So yes. Great question. All right. So here are some of the side effects to stress. One of the ways to manage all stressors in our lives is to be tuned in with what's going on inside of you. The ancient Greek philosopher Socrates emphasized the importance of knowing yourself. So let's take a moment to examine how well we know ourselves by listing what happens to us when we are stressed out, and what happens when we don't manage stress effectively. So let's start with the physical effects. So again, it affects us physically, emotionally, mentally, as well as at work. So here's the physical effects. And so stress affects us. Many people have reported that they have headaches. Some people report they have high blood pressure, shortness of breath, stomach or GI problems. A lot of people don't realize that when you're under a lot of stress, your GI area begins to go through a lot of trouble, a lot of turmoil. You have increased back pain. You have increased fatigue. You're tired more. So all these are some physical things that happen to your bodies when you're under stress. I remember when I was doing a lot at one point, I was counseling at a counseling practice, and then I was doing some stuff in the religious community, as well as working my other day position. And one day I was facilitating a talk, and at the end of the talk, I had a dear friend of mine came up to me and was like, "Wow, Dr. Halsey, you really look like you're tired." And I thought I looked fine, And so I came home. I asked my wife. I said, "Hey, my friend told me I look tired. What do you think?" She said, "Well, you do look kind of tired." And I realized that I was under a lot of stress from all the responsibilities, all the demands that I was dealing with. I was having headaches. My eyes began to twitch. All these things was happening to me. And I realized, I said, I don't like this feeling. I need to change. Something needs to give. And so, I started making some changes. We're going to talk about those changes as well. So again, these are some of the physical things that happen to us when we're under stress. So here are some emotional things that take place when we're under stress. Anger, frustration, irritability. Some people get sad, depressed. Some people get very anxious or even fearful. Some people feel lonely, like they're in it all by themselves. And some people have what we call a negative outlook on whatever this situation is. And some people even feel guilty regarding what they're dealing with or regarding the situation. And then here's the mental part of stress. And mental stress changes our ability to think and to make decisions. And we may become more forgetful, disorganized, and we may even worry more and be less able to make clear decisions. It's like, how many of you have ever had so much going on in your head that it seemed like your mind was racing all over the place? You're very worrisome. All these things are going on. You forgot to do this. You forgot to pay the bill. You forgot to meet this particular client, or you forgot to return a call of this person who's been calling all week. You know, all these things take place when you're under mental stress. And then, here we go, work behaviors. Things begin to change in work. And so, again, when we experience physical, emotional, and mental stressors, it cannot help but to affect our behaviors at work. In many cases, poor performance takes place. A lack of motivation and trouble working as a team member can stem from unmanaged stress. And other work behaviors include being late for work, or even visiting or taking care of those residents not in a timely manner. Or some people even call out of work or absent from work most of the time. And then you have low morale, and you have high job turnover. So a person can find themselves going from job to job because of all these things, that all the stresses of their life that have affected their work behavior. And again, here's another chart, a result of an APA study. And notice that many of the symptoms line up perfectly with what we've discussed so far. So here are some of the symptoms or side effects of stress. Fatigue. Again, women are at 45% higher than men, who are at 29%. Feeling of nervousness or anxiety. Again, 42% of women reported and 27% of men reported feeling nervous or anxiety. Feeling overwhelmed. And I'm sure many of you, if you want to be honest, you feel overwhelmed at times with your responsibilities, with your job and your roles, your home life, and all these other responsibilities that you have. Lack of interest or motivation or even energy. Here, there's only a 10% difference with men and women who reported on this. And then you have the feeling of depression or sadness. And again, still running close neck to neck, and it resonates to men and women. Feel like crying. Here it is, 38%, and a whopping 17% for men, because men typically hold their emotions in unless a man is trained or taught, is a trained teacher or trained someone to express the emotions. But most likely, most men actually hold their emotions in. So again, 70% say they feel like crying. Here you go, having headaches. Again, 34% of women, 20% of men. And then you have the change in sleep habits. And again, it looks like it's only a small percentage as relates to the sleep disturbances that happen when someone's under extreme stress.
Dr. Halsey, I have a question.
Yes.
The effects of stress, has it been equated? We have the breakdown between men and women. What about type A versus type B personality? Like, are there more men that perhaps are type B and more women that are A, that plays into the equation?
I would say yes, because again, everybody, men and women, express their stress in different ways. Some are very vocal. Some men are very, I would say, expressive. Whereas as a woman, it's typically kind of not hold it, but more emotional when it comes to crying and talking it out, or having that support system or someone, a good friend that they can speak to, whereas most men, don't really have that because they want to appear to be strong, be able to handle it, be a very strong individual in the eyes of others. So yeah, there is a difference there. Yeah. So again, those are some of the stress effects or effects of stress. So here it is, how we behave under stress. So here's some unhealthy behaviors. Some of us can relate to this. 25% of people overeat or eat unhealthy foods. I remember when I was under stress, one of my favorite meals was going to my favorite breakfast spot, which was McDonald's. And I'm sure I'm not by myself. I love their big breakfast, their pancakes and the sausage and all of that good stuff because it all tastes good going down. And then at the end of the day, I felt myself sluggish and tired, not the end of the day, but actually halfway through my day of working with patients and clients and all those who I'm providing support for. I found myself sluggish and tired because, of course, I loaded myself up with all this sugar, and as the day progressed, the sugar was no longer being burned any longer. I had burnt out. And so, again, unhealthy behavior when we're under stress, overeating or eating unhealthy foods. Some people skip a meal, last month. Some people drink alcohol. Some people play video games or surf the internet when they're under a lot of stress. And when we talk about meals, some people skip their lunch or don't even, take a break when they're under stress. And it's important, and we're going to talk about it as well, but it's important for you to take your breaks. That's been allotted for you. So all these are some unhealthy behaviors that people experience when they're under stress. And here are some barriers to behavioral changes. So 31% of people report a lack of willpower. I don't have a will to keep going. I am tired. I'm ready to quit. I want to give up. Some say 22% have a lack of time, which causes them to not be able to get through the stresses that they're dealing with. 16% say the cost of change takes place. And, of course, 12% is just stress altogether. Now we look at what our main focus or our main topic is today. So what else could be going on when we're under stress? Of course, our main topic is compassion fatigue. And, again, we won't go in detail, but I'll outline some of it here. Compassion fatigue is chronic numbing, physical, emotional, and spiritual exhaustion, boundary issues, and we talked about that earlier, having the inability to say no, boundary issues or headaches as well, feeling fatigued, drained, lack of sleep. And then you have also burnout happens when we're under stress. Physical symptoms that happen when someone's burnt out, weight gain or weight loss. Some people, again, like I said earlier, eat more, or some people don't eat at all. Trouble sleeping, muscle tension, and we talked about already how people have back pain. Some people have tightening of the muscles in their legs or their joints. They'll start feeling pain in different parts of their bodies, and also lack of sleep. And so all these things are factors that will lead to these things. Compassion fatigue, stress is the major thing that will lead to this particular issue or condition. So now, what is compassion fatigue? Again, and I said it earlier, it refers to physical, emotional, or spiritual exhaustion affecting a caregiver, someone who's caring for individuals. It interferes with an individual's inability or ability to feel joy or empathy. One feels the pain of his or her client or that person that they're working with, and it affects their day-to-day functioning. And it's also sometimes called secondary post-traumatic stress disorder, which is also different from burnout. Compassion fatigue can also be called vicarious traumatization or secondary traumatization, which is the emotional residue or strain of exposure to working with those who are dealing with traumatic events. Again, the difference from burnout, but they can also coexist together. And so compassion fatigue can occur due to exposure to someone's case or their trauma or whatever the major issue that person is particularly dealing with. Mother Teresa, we all know Mother Teresa. She understood compassion fatigue, and she wrote in her plan to her superiors. She said it was mandatory that any missionary that was working with individuals had to take at least 4 to 5 years off of their duties. So she made it mandatory because, again, people need to rejuvenate, revive from their doing. Of course, I'm not telling you to take 4 to 5 years off your work, but I'm just saying an example of what Mother Teresa said. So what she was saying is that you have to take some time out for yourself and do what we call self-care.
So in other words, if your company, gives you 2 weeks of vacation a year, whether you take those 2 weeks at one time or a week and a week or a day and day, it's okay to take, and you really should take some vacation time to get away from the work.
Exactly. It's definitely so important. I have some friends who live in Africa, a city called Abidjan on the west side of Africa, on the Ivory Coast. And so they came here to the U.S. to visit with me, and they stayed here for a couple months. And, of course, we were all good friends, and I didn't have an opportunity to really spend a lot of time with them because I was working so much, because, of course, here in the U.S., we work 40 hours, some people 80, some people 81 hours, some people 100 hours. And so one day we were scheduled to meet somewhere, and I said, hey, listen, I need to reschedule because I have to do something for work. I had to do this. And he said, wow. He said, Dr. Halsey, he said, I understand why you guys here in the U.S. are so stressed out because you don't enjoy your life. You don't take time off to regroup or to rejuvenate. And that portion of the continent where they live is influenced by Europe. And so, of course, in Europe, and I'm sure you've been to Europe, but in Europe, they allow their workers to be off for at least a month or maybe more for vacation. So, it gives them time to, again, rejuvenate, to refresh, to be revived again. And so, yes, it's definitely okay to take that time that's been allotted to us from our employers. Yes, so definitely can affect. So, again, whatever time you can take, I always encourage anyone to take it because that's why it's there. And some people say, well, I don't want to use it because I may need it for something else. But no, if you feel as though you are stressed, under high stress and just like you're on the edge, you really need to take a day off. You really need to take a day off. And it's okay. And it's okay to do it. So thank you, Alicia, for that question. Or that statement, yeah. All right. So here we go again, a comparison against burnout versus compassion fatigue. Again, burnout is exhaustion and diminished efficiency. Results from prolonged exposure to stress and or overwork. I'm sure many of us or many people on this webinar have felt overworked at times. Feelings of boredom, frustration, and as well as helplessness. And some people become disinterested in the lack of engagement in their particular work. And so here it is, compassion fatigue. It is simply, in simple terms, it is emotional shutdown. You're really shutting down from everything that you felt. And we're gonna talk about that as well. Like some people just don't really feel the excitement that they had when they first start doing the work that they've been doing. Some people are unable to feel sympathy or empathy for the individuals that they're working with. So someone may share their story about what's going on with them or the issue, whatever the issue is, and you're listening to them and you're just treating them as like everybody. So everybody has a cookie cutter. You're treating everybody as a cookie cut of how you treat everybody else. So this person has a problem, you give them one answer. This person has a problem, you give them the same answer. So everybody's getting. So in other words, you're not feeling empathy any longer. You're not tailor-making your support for that particular individual that you're working with. So a person may be dealing with compassion fatigue. Usually can be traced back to a specific traumatic or stressful occurrence. It may have been someone that you were directly working with, and you felt very emotionally attached to them, and something happened and things may have taken place, and maybe hurt may have taken place, or just something that you wasn't able to deal with. And you put up a barrier and say, I'm not going to allow that to happen to me again. I'm not going to get that close to any of the residents or the clients that I'm here to serve. And all that stuff takes place. So again, when someone's under their compassion fatigue, it can be traced back to any type of stressful occurrence or traumatic issue that may have taken place in the past. Or even reliving an occurrence. Like some people have excessive nightmares about a situation or working with a particular client. Avoiding things that remind them of a particular event. So all these things go under compassion fatigue. Also, there is a clear difference between compassion fatigue because over time, compassion fatigue turns into burnout. But compassion fatigue has a faster recovery time. It's less severe, and if recognized early, a person it can be managed. Someone can really get through it. And like I said earlier, I found myself dealing with compassion fatigue, which is one of the reasons why I helped write this particular presentation because, again, at one point I was feeling burnt out. I wasn't really empathetic any longer or sympathetic with those who I was caring for. And again, I had to take a step back and I did some research on what it all entailed and kind of made some changes. So you're talking to someone or listening to someone who's definitely been there before. And here's some other continued things that relate to burnout. So again, burnout is being seriously stressed, being unable to cope, feeling underappreciated, and there are a lot of people who feel underappreciated. Some people say, well, my manager or my supervisor doesn't appreciate me, or the people that I'm taking care of, they're very demanding. They never tell me thank you. Some people, some of your roles or our roles can be thankless roles. And some people feel burnout because they feel underappreciated or they feel like they're being overworked. And so that's what burnout is. Again, compassion fatigue is exhaustion, overwhelming feeling of hopelessness, helplessness, loss of personal or professional purpose. There are some people who even lose their purpose. They'll be dealing with compassion fatigue and then wonder, why did I get into this profession anyway? What was my purpose? Why did I get into it? I don't like it any longer. It's not really bringing me any joy any longer. And that's when you have that light bulb go off in your head and say, you know what, I need to make a change. I need to take a day off. I need to do something that'll help revive me or rejuvenate me. So loss of personal and professional purpose, again, and you kind of lose your effectiveness. You're making frequent mistakes. We're going to talk about that as well. And also withdrawal from activities altogether. And so here's some symptoms of compassion fatigue. Some people report inability to connect with others, where at one point you used to connect with individuals, you had great communication, great conversations, great relations with others, and then now with compassion fatigue, you really can't connect with someone. You sit down with a client or someone that you're taking care of, or someone that you're working with in the building, and they're not understanding what you're saying. You're not understanding what they're saying. Just inability to connect with them. Some people have what we call a psychic numbing, inability. I said earlier, inability to feel empathy. Again, withdrawal, avoiding some particular situations where you might be re-traumatized. Some people say, well, I'm not going to do that any longer. I'm not going to work with a client who has that particular scenario, just not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to, go in that particular environment or talk about that particular subject with that particular individual or like those individuals. So some people call off sick or just come out of work. Some individuals report being easily angered. Like at one point you were fine, now you're just always upset. You're on edge. easily angered, chronic lateness, abusing of drugs or alcohol, sleep disturbances, increased irritability, or again, frequent headaches or GI problems. So again, we see the correlation between stress. Again, with stress, when we're under stress, it affects our GI problem, which also leads to compassion fatigue. And so here are some of the factors to lead to compassion fatigue. Again, some things may be repeated. Prolonged and or repeated exposures to a person's trauma. Lack of time to process the repeated exposure. Unconscious or conscious decision to, again, avoid working through emotions related to prolonged exposure by moving on to the next person or task at hand without working the emotions experienced with the last person. So in other words, say you deal with a traumatic issue or a situation that you've been handling. It may be a challenging situation, and you move from one person to the next person without dealing with what you just experienced. And that's why it's so important to have, support people around you in your work that you can talk to. Of course, you have your supervisor or those who are the managers. You also have the ability to talk with them and share with them what happened, or in other words, that in how to deal with, how it affected you. And of course, they're trained to be able to help you move to the next task. So again, some people have that unconscious or conscious decision to avoid working through their emotions. So it's important to work through your emotions.
I'm sorry, Dr. Halsey. A lot of companies, I know, like PHFA, we actually have a system in place where, if as an employee, we're dealing with extreme issues, that we can call a number and it's confidential. Wonderful. To give us support, and it's not like, you're going out and making a doctor appointment. It's, you could, I guess, if you needed to, do it, but it's actually, an employee support system so that, if we get to that point, that we have someone to talk to. And I wish that more companies, especially, service coordinators and property managers, it's like they don't live with these people, but it's like by the 40 hours a week you are with these residents. They become part of your family. And
right.
I was a service coordinator, and I used to take it home with me until I finally figured out that I needed to stop taking it home with me. Gotcha.
Yeah. And you're right. A lot of companies, not a lot of companies, but most companies now, especially with all the things that are going on in our world today, with the frustrated and stress in employment or jobs, employers are now looking into it. Most of the bigger companies have employee assistance programs or hotlines that someone can call if they don't want to talk directly with their supervisor or manager. So yes, you're absolutely right, and it's so important. And even with all the current, again, climate of our world, I'm actually glad to see that some companies are moving towards it with all the different things that are taking place in our world today. So yes. So it's important to reach out to those employee assistance programs, that hotline number that's there for you. It's so important because, again, it's helping you. It's helping you be the best you that you can be as far as, doing your job and responsibilities. Another factor that leads to compassion fatigue is self-imposed high standards that cannot be achieved. Of course, I know as guys and as men, we are very competitive. I'm sure some ladies are very competitive as well, but men are very competitive. And so we'll set all these high standards and do all these things, and we find ourselves not being able to reach those particular goals or standards that we want to achieve. And so, again, it leads to fatigue. I'm tired. Oh, I thought I could do it, but I can't. I thought I could, do this, but I can't. It's okay that you can't do everything. Also, the superhero complex, meaning I can save everyone and ease all of their suffering. And the reality is that you and I cannot. It's like being on an airplane. On an airplane, they say if the air pressure in the cabin begins to decrease and, God forbid, the plane begins to go down, the oxygen masks are going to fall from the ceiling. And if you're sitting next to someone who needs assistance, they always tell you to put your mask on first before helping the person sitting next to you. Why? Because they want to make sure that you got to take care of yourself first, because if that person next to you is struggling trying to get their mask on, you don't have yours on, you're putting yourself in danger now, as opposed to doing it for you first and then helping them. So it's important that to know that you can't save everyone and you can't ease everyone's suffering. You only can do what you can do in your own power. And so compassion fatigue takes on a particular trajectory. And so you have what I like to say, the Zealot Phase, the Irritability Phase, the Withdrawal Phase, the Zombie Phase, and the Leaving the Work Altogether Phase. And so let's look at the first phase, the Zealot Phase. And I'm not sure if any of you remember the first time, or the week or the day you got the call that you got the job that you're working in now. You got the job, you got the acceptance letter, and you were committed, you were excited, you was available. You said, I am ready to make a difference. You were fresh. You may have just moved from one job to this new one, and you're excited. You're like, listen, new environment, new people, new challenges, new things I can do. You're wanting to and willing to go the extra mile. You stay late without someone asking you to. You went above and beyond when you first got into the job. You had high enthusiasm. You took initiative to do things without being asked. I mean, you was just on top of your, I'd say, for lack of a better way, you were on top of your game when you first started at that particular job. So you was in the Zealot Phase. And then you've been there for a few years. Things begin to change. You have the same residents or people that you're taking care of. This just becomes a job now. It's not exciting for you any longer. It's like this. One of my life's principles I live by. I don't know who said. I heard it one time. I kind of adopted it, and it goes like this: If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So in other words, all of us should find a way to enjoy what we do. And if we're in it, we should enjoy it. And if the enjoyment is diminishing, then we have to take a step back and rejuvenate ourselves. So again, here at the Irritability Phase, a person begins to cut corners. They avoid contact with certain individuals, clients, or people that you're caring for. They lose patience with their particular clients and their coworkers. In other words, that you may have been the main person at the job who people love to be around, and now all of a sudden you're not patient with them any longer. You're snapping, you're upset, you're angry. You have more frequent oversights or making more mistakes. And you start distancing yourself from friends and or coworkers. Where we used to go out to lunch every day, and all of a sudden, because a person's irritable, you may not go out with them any longer. And then you have the Withdrawal Phase, where clients and coworkers become a source of irritation instead of fulfillment. Again, at one point when you first got the job, you enjoyed coming to work, you enjoyed the people that you were working for, the people that you were helping, and now they become a source of irritation instead of fulfillment. And you have increasing complaints about what you do as well as your personal life. You're more tired and not as willing to talk about what you do. Again, when you first started your job, you loved what you did. You took it home, or you told your family about it, or those that you are in connection with. You shared what you did because you enjoyed it. And then now you're withdrawing from it. You don't talk about it any longer. Somebody asks you, how was your day? You just say, fine. Where before, somebody asks you, how was your day? You shared all the things that have taken place, all the good things, all the not so good things. But now you're in that withdrawal phase. You're more tired, not as willing, again, to talk about what we do. And then you start neglecting certain clients, family members, or even coworkers. And then some people even begin to neglect themselves. We talk about neglecting clients. Like you had that same client who would come every day and ask the same question, and you say, I told you yesterday the answer to this question, and they keep coming to you, and then, they're coming down, you go hide and run, you don't want to help them any longer, so you begin to withdraw from what you do. And in the past, you would be willing and able to answer the question as many times as they ask that particular question. But now, with compassion fatigue, again, a person can be in that withdrawal phase. And then you have, look at this, the zombie phase. That person is exhausted. Look at the picture there. He's exhausted, laying his head down. Hopelessness turns into anger and frustration. And look at this. A person can say, people have reported that they feel like they hate people. How can someone hate people if they're serving people and supporting people and taking care of people? And now they hate people. And then that's a scary place to be in. Others seem incapable or incompetent to us. So, someone may ask you a question, maybe one of your colleagues, and they ask a question to you, and maybe a question that may not make sense, and then you'd be very sarcastic with them, and then now, you're angry or they're angry. Now there's conflict. You avoid working with that coworker or the colleague, and just all these things begin to take place. You develop a disdain for your clients. Again, you have no patience. At one point, you was fun. People love to be around you. They love to hear your jokes. And now you're not fun any longer, and you no longer have a sense of humor. And then some people just leave the work altogether. Like for example, if someone who moves from job to job, there's something wrong. There's something that they haven't really dealt with. There's something that they're fighting. They may have been under a lot of stress at their previous position and really haven't dealt with it. And so they move to another place, and then they find themselves the same way that they was responding like they did in their previous job. So again, some people leave the work altogether. Some is due to illness, injury. They're frequently being injured. Some people just quit. Some people just leave the profession altogether. And some psychological symptoms include headaches, stomach or GI problems, as well as depression. And so here's some of the symptoms of compassion fatigue. They can take on one of three forms: intrusion, avoidance, and arousal. So intrusion is thoughts or images associated with the client's trauma. So again, intrusion is you're constantly thinking about the stories that the person may have shared, the traumatic issues that the person may have gone through, and now you're thinking about it, you're dwelling on it, you're looking at it, and you feel as though, wow, can I really help this person? Where at one point you was willing to help them, you were strong, you was confident that you were able to get them resources that they need. So it's like this, you need to help the client encroaches on your personal time, where at one point, again, you were willing to help them, and now when they come to you with a particular issue, particular problem, and you may be eating lunch or maybe taking a quick break, whereas before, you would invite them in, you would help them, didn't matter if you were on lunch or whatever, but you would try to help them. Now you're on lunch, hey, listen, wait till I'm finished lunch, or wait till I finish my break. So again, all these, this particular intrusion form can take place, or one of the symptoms. And then you have the avoidance symptom of compassion fatigue. Again, loss of energy, where you're very energetic. Of course, most people drink coffee in the morning to, kind of give them a boost. But now, you're drinking a lot of coffee to try to stay awake or stay energized. Of course, a lot of caffeine is not good for us, and we'll talk about that as well. Loss of sense of effectiveness. Sense of dread working with certain clients or people. And then you have the symptom of arousal, increased anxiety. You're more on edge. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, you're between 9 and 10 every day now. If a person is dealing with compassion fatigue. Increased reactivity. In other words, it's hard for you to, get back to work or to get back into support or helping individuals that you have been working with in the past. Increased frustration or anger, or even difficulty concentrating. And symptoms of compassion fatigue can also be experienced emotionally, and we talked about this same correlation with stress. emotionally, people can feel depression, anger, hopelessness, irritability. Psychosocially, some people report a sense of isolation, blaming others, diminished sense of accomplishment, avoidance of responsibilities. And so some people say, well, I'm not going to do this today. This is not my job. This is not what I do. And whereas before, all the life issues and stresses of the job came into place, you were willing to do whatever it takes to work with the team to make, the job much better. So some people avoid their responsibilities. And then you have the spiritual symptom of compassion fatigue, anger or blaming God. Some people deal with stresses and say, well, God, or they use their faith to God, what are you doing to me? Why are you allowing this to happen to me? Blaming God, feeling of despair, feeling as though they're by themselves, excessive guilt, loss of empathy, or even loss of faith. And so self-assessment or self-awareness is key. The American Academy of Family Physicians devised this brief self-assessment for compassion fatigue in professionals who work in helping fields. And so, you can look at the screen there and respond yes or no to the following. First question is, personal concerns often intrude on my professional role. My colleagues seem to lack understanding. I find even small changes enormously draining. I can't seem to recover quickly after associating with a trauma. Association with trauma affects me very deeply. My client's stress affects me deeply. I have lost my sense of hopefulness. I feel vulnerable all the time. I feel overwhelmed by unfinished business. And answering yes to 4 or more of those questions may indicate that you suffer from compassion fatigue. And so again, self-awareness. They say when someone's going through recovery from whatever it is, any type of substance abuse, they say in order to really get through it, you have to acknowledge that you have a problem. And again, I said, like I talked about earlier, when I personally had experienced it, I had to acknowledge that there was a problem and I had to make some changes. And so again, here's some root cause of compassion fatigue. They're usually deeply rooted. Some people report that their coping patterns and habits that they have developed over the course of life is kind of off. Avoidance, denial of root causes. Present individuals suffer from compassion fatigue. Placing the needs of others before your own. Unresolved past trauma and pain. Again, some of the root causes of compassion fatigue. Or more root causes are lack of healthy life coping skills. And like I said earlier, lack of self-awareness. So you have to be aware of what's going on. Providing care or service while under stress or burnout. Again, lack of boundaries. Inability to communicate your own needs, to express what you're dealing with. Or, I like to say, an overdeveloped sense of responsibility. So now, how do we treat compassion fatigue? And I have down here, there are 2 primary steps to resolving compassion fatigue. Number 1, understanding what it is and how it is manifesting in one's life is so important. So if you understand what it is, you'll be able to get through it or to recover from it. Also by recognizing what we need to change or how to make those particular changes. So here are some physical things that we can do. Good nutrition is important. Healthy foods that give you energy and balance is definitely important. Sleep and relaxation. You say, oh, what is that? Sleep. 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night and breaks out the day is another thing that we can do when it relates to dealing with compassion fatigue. And you may say, well, I only get 6 hours, I only get 5 hours. Well, you want to try your best to squeeze in at least 7 or 8. Because again, at the end of the day, it is about self-care. It's about you taking care of yourself. as well as regular exercise. So all those things are so important to do. Some psychological things that you can do. Have a lifestyle balance. It's important to balance life out. Find a passion or hobby or things that re-energize you. It's so important to find a favorite hobby, whatever it is that you'd like to do. And at this point, you should just begin to evaluate, all right, what is it that I enjoy doing that causes me the less stress? Or what is it that I can do where I can do without even thinking about it? Some people like reading. They'll read their favorite book. I've talked to some people. Some people like gardening. For me, I like one of my favorite stores is Best Buy, which is an electronic store. And you sometimes, when I was working with direct care with patients or people who were dealing with life-limiting illnesses, at the end of my shift, I would actually go to Best Buy and I would walk around the store and just kind of look at the new and innovative electronic stuff that's out there. And I wouldn't even buy anything. I would just be there just to look around because for me, I love gadgets and electronics and all that kind of stuff, whereas some people go to happy hour to unwind. Some people do all these other things. But for me, I like to go to Best Buy. So you want to find something that you enjoy that re-energizes you, a hobby, a passion that you have. Some people love working with animals. Find your favorite animal organization that helps animals. Seek it out and do it. That gives you a sense of comfort and peace, something you enjoy. Some stress reductions, having a massage. When's the last time you had a massage? I remember when I years ago, I got a Japanese massage, and the lady got on my back and she started walking on my back. I said, "Oh, no, please stop," because I realized that to her it was good, but for me it was hurting. So not that type of massage, but a relaxing massage that'll help you relax your muscles, that'll help with tension and all those things. It's so important to have massage. I did this presentation, I think a couple of years ago, with a group of individuals, and had this one participant who raised their hand and said, "I got a gift certificate to a massage place." And I said, "Hey, well, when did you use it?" She said, "I've had it for a year and I haven't used it yet." And I said, "Well, go out and use it." And so if you have one of those gift certificates to a spa or something relaxing, go use it. Use it as soon as you can, especially if you're under stress. Some people report listening to music is important to them. Some people play music. I had some people who listened to this presentation who enjoy playing a particular instrument, and they like to go off into a corner somewhere or their private room or maybe sit in the park or garden and just play their favorite tunes on their own instrument. And some people like to meditate. So meditation is so important as well. Looking at some good things, meditating on the good stuff that's maybe happening for you. For example, when we turn on the news, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who enjoy the news, so when we look at the news, sometimes it's some of it's not so great, some of it's not so great. So, you want to kind of shut out those negative things that may be going on with you as well. For example, for me, at the end of my night, I like to look at funny sitcoms, situation comedies. They help re-energize me. They help rejuvenate me because, again, all day I'm dealing with major issues, crises, all these different things. So at the end of my day, I like to go to sleep just meditating on good things that may, that I need to rejuvenate me. And you also can do the same. You also want to build personal boundaries. It's okay to say no. And all of you who are listening, repeat after me, no. If someone needs something, it's okay to say no because, again, superhero complex, you cannot help everybody, and it's okay. And some people, you may have friends who may give you the guilt trip, or you may have family members who say, "I need you here, I need you to do this." But again, for me, I've worked and I've seen people who have helped people and actually have their life has declined because they did all these things for everybody else. And then when it was their time for help, those individuals that they helped wasn't there to help them out. And of course, that happens not very often, but I always tell people just make sure that you set boundaries. If you're not able to do something, it's okay. Of course, with your work, with your work within reason, I'm not telling you to tell your manager or supervisors no. I'm telling you that you want to do things within your scope of the comfort level that you need to do. So again, but in your personal life, you do want to put boundaries. You also want to expand your coping resources. Talk to somebody who may be doing the same work that you're doing. Share stories on how you get through your day, how you get through those issues, or even personal life stories that you and someone else may have in common. It's okay to share those stories and to talk about how they got through, and to share with each other how you got through those issues. Interpersonal skills. Build a strong support system. It's okay to be around people, like I said earlier, that understand you. I call it non-judgmental listening. And I have people who I get to talk to when I'm dealing with something very stressful. And what I like to call it a dump session. I get to dump on someone. I'm not really looking for their opinion, not looking for their advice. I just want to get it out of me. It's okay to get it out of you when you're dealing with a whole lot of issues. Having someone who's a non-judgmental listener is so important. That will definitely help you. So build a strong support system. That can be a friend, that can be a close family member, or even somebody you don't know. Some people report they can talk to somebody that they don't know, and that'll help them as well. Be involved in causes or activities outside of your work world. Do something that you enjoy. Something, volunteer to help the homeless, or help feed needy families, or whatever it is that you enjoy doing. I encourage you to get involved in. And the reality also is you want to ask for help. Know your limits. Again, you're not like, say, there's an old saying, you're not on an island by yourself. You're not in it by yourself. Know your limits. So it's also, again, having this complete life balance. Practice excellent self-care. Nurture yourself by putting, again, activities or things that you enjoy. Allow yourself to take many escapes. Have many getaways. They have something called staycations. Where you stay home, or you go somewhere. You don't have to travel somewhere very far. Go to the park. Just do something where you can escape from all the things that you have been doing. Having that balance is so important. Some spiritual needs. You can identify your source of strength that you can call for support or guidance. You can practice prayer, or your tradition of prayer or worship, or even use serenity rituals that restore calmness. Like some people do yoga, some people do all other things that'll help them spiritually. Some people go to their faith tradition. Whatever it is that re-energizes you spiritually is what you want to do. So important. And some other self-care tips. You want to take stock on what's on your plate. You want to make a list of demands on time and energy. Start a self-care idea collection, and you can find that on this website here called catastrophe.ca. And like I said earlier, you can also interview friends, families, or others on their self-care strategies. And this is a big one. I said this earlier. You want to find time for yourself every day. And so if you have been, I'm sure, a lot of time for breaks, because we all get in our employment. Allow time for breaks. You want to take those breaks. Go outside and sit, sit in the grass or something, eat your lunch, or do something that'll something for yourself to re-energize. It's so important for you to do that. Take breaks. Have a transition from work to home. What do you enjoy before going home? What is it that you enjoy doing? Again, learn to say no more often, and learn to ask for help. So it's definitely important. And some other things that I have as well is you want to find balance for your soul. Have quiet times alone, things that are calming, things that are safe, a safe retreat that'll help you feel renewed. Have awarenesses of what restores and replenishes you. What replenishes you. Some other things is stay clear with committed or commitment to career goals, and understand your personal mission. All of us have a personal mission. Again, why did I get into this particular work? Know how to stay focused on what you can control. Again, I said this earlier, life happens to us. There are things that you can that are out of your control that you cannot control. So it's okay to focus on stuff that you can control. You also can look at situations, this is not on my slides here, but you can also look at situations as opportunities that may take place. And you don't want to look at it as a problem or a particular stress, and just kind of say, you know what, all right, this is something that I can deal with. I can get through this. It's not that bad. Again, I said earlier, build a positive support system that supports you, not fuels your stress.
I find one of the things that I've taught myself to do, because I used to, try to solve everyone's problems. And so I've had to try to separate where I just recognize that, you know what, it's not my problem. It's not my issue.
Right, exactly.
Instead of me always being the one to rush out there and trying to, because I'm a take charge kind of person. And in my personal life, if my boyfriend, is going through something, I force myself just to step back and say, I'm there to support him, but it's not my issue. Because when I make it my issue, then my stress level goes up. Right,
there you go. It's so important. It's so, again, because like I said, at the end of the day, it's all about you and self-care. Taking care of ourselves. It's like this. It's like having a habit, and habits can form. If you do something repeatedly for 30 days, it becomes a new habit. And it's easier to add a new positive habit than to keep doing the negative habits that we've been doing. And here's a poem that I have here that talks about what a habit is, or talks about habits. It says this: I am your constant companion. I am your greatest helper or your heaviest burden. I will push you onward or drag you down to failure. I am completely at your command. Half the things you do, you might as well turn over to me. I will do them quickly and correctly. I am easily managed. You must be firm with me. Show me exactly how you want something done. After a few lessons, I will do it automatically. I am the servant of great people and allies of all failures as well. Those who are great, I have made great. Those who are failures, I have made failures. I am not a machine. Though I work with the precision of a machine and the intelligence of a person, you may run me for profit or run me for ruin. It makes no difference to me. Take me, train me, be with me, confirm me, and I will place the world at your feet. Be easy with me, and I will take care of you. Who am I? I am a habit. And so again, if we allow self-care to be our daily habit, at least for 30 days, it'll really help re-energize you, help take care of you, and you'll be able to get through whatever the stressors that you're faced with on a daily basis. And I also want to say this last thing, the last poem. It goes like this: yesterday is gone, tomorrow has not come yet. We only have today, so let's begin. So you don't have to wait till tomorrow to do self-care. You don't have to wait till 2 days from now or next week. You can actually start today. Today. So it's important to take care of ourselves and to make sure that we're doing what we can to make sure that we're healthy and that you're healthy in your daily work. So in conclusion, compassion fatigue can occur to individuals who work in the helping fields. Understand that you can prevent compassion fatigue by being aware of your triggers and being sensitive to how you feel every day. Don't ignore how you feel. They're real feelings, they're true feelings. Don't ignore it. Again, self-care is so important. If you don't remember anything that we shared on this, that I shared on this webinar, remember self-care. Self-care is a major thing you wanna be aware of. And if you do suffer from compassion fatigue, you can work your way out of it. It's not the end for you. I'm the greatest example. I've worked my way out of it, and I went through this some years ago, and I'm much better. Now I'm able to help others, on how to deal with this. And if you are having trouble working it out, then seek professional help. As we talked about earlier, there are employee assistance programs as well as counseling there for you to help you through those particular issues, and if you're suffering with compassion fatigue and stress. All right. And that that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you so much for